Welcome to the Novel Universe with Dawn and Ashley. We are doing this during the quarantine, and so Ashley and I are not in the same room, so we have decided to just do this live so that Dawn doesn't have to edit. I apologize if there are any dead air situations because we are doing this live. And today we're going to be discussing The Witcher, which is point 5, The Last Wish, and the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin from the Broken Earth series, sorry, and that's book 1. There will be spoilers, and we will say this is a spoiler. During the archive, though, I will have in the show notes where the spoilers occur so that you can stop listening if you want to. So right now we are just waiting for Ashley to call in, and thank you for joining us. I hope everybody is having a safe quarantine and that they are staying inside so that we can get back to hopefully where we were before the quarantine started. All right, Ashley's about to call in and we will begin.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon to you too.
How have you been?
Doing okay, just surviving our coronation, you guys.
Coronation.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I do. You gotta make light of it, man.
I'm trying here,
Yeah.
so this is what we're doing.
All right. So Ashley and I are in Illinois, which has been a stay inside state for like 3 weeks now. So yeah, we've been at home for like 3 weeks.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
We're getting so much done.
Are you working?
No, I actually am. Oh, that's why I said coronation, everyone over here. So we've been doing a lot of housework and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
and reading when I can read because I have 2-year-old. So.
Yeah. What are you doing? There's noise in the background. Are you shucking corn?
Nothing.
What's happening?
No, I have papers.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Sorry.
Do you have a microphone?
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably why. Like microphones are really sensitive. So if you hear talking in the background or like noise, like my microphone is really sensitive. It's probably my very noisy neighbors. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get into it. We are doing The Witcher first, The Last Wish. And we saw the series back when it came out on Netflix. And so then we decided that we wanted to read the books. Not knowing that it started with a 0.5, then a 0.75.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. I read the wrong book first too, you guys. Because there is something that says book 1, and book 1 is not it. It's 0.5.
Yeah. And then what's the second one called? The Sword of Destiny?
Sword of Destiny, and then it's the Blood of the Elves.
All right. So yeah, you got to go in that order. Don't start with the Blood of the Elves. I mean, I guess technically you could.
No.
You can't?
You could if you didn't know what was happening, but it all relates back to Geralt and Ciri and like a bunch of other key players that are not mentioned before. Like, if you don't know where they're going and why they're there, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Yeah. And all like right. Yennefer is like in and out and all this other stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into The Last Wish. It was not what I was expecting. I know the Netflix show is based on The Last Wish, so I mean, it was not too different, but so this is spoilers, you guys. We're doing spoilers,
yeah.
right? Like, yeah.
I mean, we have to because I don't think there's any other way to talk about it.
We totally can't.
No.
Some of the stories in the book were not in the show, which I think was a bummer. The very first one, the Beauty and the Beast one, is that the first one?
Yeah.
Or the second one? Yeah. I would have liked to have seen that because I think the monster in that one was really cool. I would have liked to have seen.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, which is the Grain of Truth, right? Is that the one? Or is it the story of the Witcher? Because there's 6 different like stories within the last wish itself. Um, and I think that's what it's called, A Grain of Truth. I think that's what it is.
I don't have my book in front of
The
me.
title of the story. Yeah, because yeah, it's A Grain of Truth, which is like the representation of like Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's that one.
yeah. So I
But
like
that is a very interesting story in itself, and that
it
wasn't on the
was
show,
no.
which is
I think
terrible.
it kind of set up because I was like, oh, this sounds like Beauty and the Beast. Like I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Is Beauty and the Beast a Grimm tale, or is that a
It. I think there is a version of a Grimm tale,
okay?
but it is. I think people are more or less immersed in the Disney one.
Yeah.
Grimm
So
tale.
I did catch that it was Beauty and the Beast. I'm not a big Disney person, guys, so but I do know the Grimm stories. So I was like, oh, and he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like. Of course, he's the author is not going to be like, hey guys, it's Beauty and the Beast. Heads up. You kind of just like, oh, this is Beauty and the Beast, and it kind of set up the other
It's so true.
were also fantasy stories or Grimm's tales, and I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
this is freaking amazing. Like I was shocked. I was not expecting that at all, and it was a
I
wonderful.
know. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think this book in itself. I wish there were a couple of these stories that were not in there, which is like where you kind of get like what Geralt of Rivia is like. Why? How did he become a Witcher? What does that entail? Like this all kind of the first one, The Witcher, really introduces him quite well.
Yeah, and I was when we watched Ashley and I have a little group of friends where we get together and watch TV and stuff and read the book. Um, but I don't know if you heard me and Elise and Alyssa talking, but in this book, they say that he was a child of surprise, which is
He
not
is
in
a child
the
of
show.
surprise.
That's not in the
No,
show,
it's
right?
not. I think it's gonna be revealed later on
Yeah,
because at the same time, like that's why it's coincidence that like he's a child of surprise and so is Siri and like there's like it's fate destined like to be together and
yeah,
it like doesn't happen in a millennia. I think it is like to have a child of surprise is like very rare for
hmm
them to then be an owner of a child surprise.
yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
thought that was. I read that and I was like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
Because his
Mm-hmm.
mom was in the show. We found out his mom was a sorcerer, and we know they can't have babies because they rip out your uterus. So I'm
Yep.
like, well, how did she have a baby then? Well, there you go.
Yep.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Yeah,
And that's why she gives him up to then become like a part of this Witcher like coven, where he gets trained to become a Witcher.
yeah,
It is crazy.
yeah,
Oh my goodness. Well, which of these stories was one of your favorites? Because it goes through like the Striga, and then you meet Dandelion, which is what's his name from the show?
yes, Gear.
Yeah, yes, Gear. And I know that their whole like bromance relationship is amazing. I love
Yeah,
it. I love it so much.
yeah. Um,
um,
my favorite was I don't know the names of the chapters because once again I don't have my book in front of me, but my favorite was the Renfrey one. Like she's great in the book. She's even better in the book, but she's great in the show.
mm-hmm.
And once again she was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, so I love the way how he weaved all of that in. Um,
Yep.
so yeah,
Which
she's
is yeah, she's that one is part of the lesser evil, which
okay.
is where Geralt has to decide like what is the lesser evil
Hmm.
basically and like how to take out someone. So like this wizard that comes upon him and is like, you need to kill this person for me because she's possessed and she's part of all of the daughters that were born on the moon or whatever. And so of course Geralt falls in love with her, has sex with her, and then he has to kill her.
Yeah,
It's a very terrible story.
really tragic.
It's
Yeah.
really
I mean,
terrible.
her story, that's her story in itself. And I'm not quite sure if the book answers the question of was she really this cursed girl born during the eclipse or not? I don't think they truly answer that question. I'm believing that she wasn't. It was just circumstances, coincidences,
Hmm.
but and the stepmom wanted her out of the picture so her kids could like rule or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, her whole story was
Uh,
just so tragic. She was a
It
great
is.
character.
I love Renfree. She's my favorite.
Yeah, she
And
is.
she keeps popping up. And it's like, was he truly like in love with her? Because she is something that is like forever like imprinted on his heart. And they're not supposed to have feelings or feel love, these witchers, at
Yeah.
all.
While we were watching the show, Elisa and Alyssa and I were talking about how Geralt seems to fall for these tragic women like Yennefer
Mm-hmm.
and Renfrey, these women who have just, they had lost control over their life somehow, and just these, which I think is pretty good writing, where he's kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
consistent in the women that he falls for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I
He's
like
got a
it.
pattern. He likes broken women.
He
He
likes
does
it.
indeed.
Yeah.
So, okay, and then what was the next one that was after that? There's
What's the elf
the,
one next?
the edge of the world, the innocent looking girl didn't end up with being with a monster or whatever. Which one is that one? Do do. Uh,
I don't know that one.
I
Wasn't that a
forget.
brief one though?
It is because I mean Dandelion's like a part of that one, so that's the only reason why I remember it. Um,
Well, let's talk about the one with the Striga, because that's a big one in the show.
yeah, that
And how that is
is
different.
that's the voice of reason. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
No, no, it's The Witcher because the little, yeah. So that's where you get an insight into like who the Witcher actually is with this Striga that he has to then basically rid this kingdom of, which she is a child that was cursed because the mage or whatever, right?
Was he a
That
mage or was he the hand of the king or
no,
something?
yeah, no, he was a oh my goodness. I forget his actual title, but he was in love with the princess and he was not happy that the princess and the prince were having an affair together with each other and didn't think anyone would find out. So he got unhappy and got a curse
Okay.
from
So
someone, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, everyone thinks it was what's her name? Tassila to what's her name? Tassaya.
Tisea. I think it
Because
might have been Tisea. Because
yeah.
you flash back to her in this circle of them as a young prince and princess like on the show, and you see Tisea like monitoring their relationship because you
Mhm.
can see that the soon to be king is like antagonizing his sister. I think she totally sent the curse to that guy. I really do.
But I wonder why. Like why would she do that?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Tisea has her own agenda.
Yeah, there really are no
She
clues
truly
to
does.
speculate why she would do that. Hopefully it comes up again, but yeah.
Well, and like their magic has no rules. Like it's free to basically do whatever. Like it's not like there's a rule that you can't give a curse out.
Yeah, but
Do you see what I
why
mean?
would she target that nation? Like why would she want that baby cursed?
I
I
don't
don't know why
know.
she would do that. She's
I don't
comes
know. I
across
think
as a great, like a sympathetic woman. She's hard on her subjects because she loves them. So she comes across as a really good person, and this is just gonna like make her into a total villain, which I'm
mm-hmm.
here for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it, but I'm just curious as to. And this is all speculation. We don't know if it was really Tisea.
No, we're just making it up.
Yeah,
We have no idea.
pretty much.
We have no idea. But yeah, that was probably the most well done episode on this show
Oh
was
yeah.
the Stringer one. Oh my gosh. It was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. That this beast literally is born from a curse and has to like crawl back into her mom's like coffin every night and like be next to her. Oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah.
It's so creepy.
Good. Um, and then
So,
the very last one was also in the
eh,
show, whatever
the
the name of
last
it. The
wish.
Last Wish, duh.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
there were some differences, not too much, but I think the biggest difference was does he say what his last wish was in the book, or no? Because he doesn't in the show.
No,
That's
but I think the last wish was for because he was trying to get sleep. Don't you remember that? He just wanted some good night's rest.
but that's not it. Like he made a wish so that him and Yennefer are tied together always. That was part of his
Hmm.
last wish, but I don't think we,
Yeah.
as the reader or viewer, know exactly what his last wish was.
No, because it was played out that it was just because he was so exhausted from everything that he was doing. So that's what he would wish for is a good night's sleep. But at that, I think he wished not to be alone, to be honest, because
Ooh, okay.
to be a witcher is a lonely lifestyle. I mean, you go back to the tour or whatever it is, and there's only like a handful of them left, like they're dying out. So I think for him, that's my speculation is so he wouldn't be alone because he knew that Yennefer is also alone because she's a mage and she's also given up her one thing in life, which is to have children, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to bring life back into this world, to continue on like a family line. And I think he knew that deep down that she also did not want to be alone. So I think he bound himself to her in some way.
That's a good theory. I was thinking a little bit more specific to her, but for it to be just a general wish to not be alone is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
that. I'm just gonna say
I think
that.
I think that that's what it is, but that's just because I like a happy ending.
Yeah.
But I mean, but Geralt he's an odd coin because, like I said, everyone thinks that they don't have emotion and they're not supposed to love and have feelings. And like when you're watching him as a character, like he totally does have feelings and he has emotions and he feels grief and he feels love and sympathy. Like it's just a myth made up, and then that goes along with like how were stories told back in the day. Well, they were sung, around a campfire. Like that's how like people gained these important names and became legends were singing around a campfire or in a restaurant or in a pub or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's however that story got twisted
Yeah. Because
into they don't feel anything.
yeah, they do make a point in the show. I'm not sure if they make it in the book, but Yaskir was changing the legend, and Geralt was like, "That's not how it happened." He was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is much better." So people
Yep.
are probably changing the song as
Oh,
how.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
But I think this was exciting to me because I do not read a lot of adult fiction. Um, just because I've always been so immersed in like a YA world that reading something like The Last Wish, I was like, oh, this is excellent. This is weird, but it's excellent at the same time. And it has that very like Tolkien like story style, there's all these mythical creatures and there's this balance and all this other stuff. But it's quite fast pacing because
Yeah.
the stories that are told, it's almost like oh, here was this first adventure and then there was this adventure. It's not in is it in chronological order the way
I
that the stories are told? I
I
don't think
think
they are.
I think they are because he's going to that place to like rest, and he keeps well. No, I'm lying. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. That's why I was like, I wonder if like they're just like pieced together because that's how the author chose to piece them together. Because of the storyline, if you guys have ever seen The Witcher, it is told in three different storylines that are like separated by decades. And as you're watching the show, like you think that everything like this is happening all at the same time, and it's not. It's on a different time frame. Which you and I were like, oh dear God, now we understand what's happening as we're
Yeah.
watching the show. That was a big revelation.
I don't know. I think that the author wrote the series and then he went back and did The Last Wish as short stories just to kind of give a little bit more information into their backstories. So, because
Yeah,
that's how YA does it.
it's
They
a
get to a
Novelia.
certain point in their series and then they're like, oh, let me write a prequel and then let me get into the rest
Mm-hmm.
of the series. So I think so it may not be in any order. It might just be, well, here's more information on Renfrey's story, just in case I didn't give you enough in the original story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But what did you not like about the book if you had to give anything you did not like.
The only thing I say I didn't like, and it wasn't because it was the book's fault. I think it's just because I watched the show first. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really into the what where was he at while he was taking refuge? Whatever that was called. And the gods that they worship,
Um,
wasn't that the god that old girl worships? The one that was in
yeah.
the
I forget the name of like where he was trying to take refuge. Oh,
yeah. What was
um,
the name of the goddess that was with the Striga episode? Even though she's not in the book. I can't, oh God, why can't I remember his name? You know what I'm talking about? The Byron here.
yes,
At
yes,
one
yes.
point, she names her goddess's name, and I'm like, is that where he was? That's the only thing I didn't like. It kept like going back to that, and he kept talking to Iona or whatever her name was, and
Yes.
I
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand that. But I'm thinking maybe it'll come clear as because the book starts off, or the second chapter in the book jumps to that, and I'm like, what the hell is this?
I
I
know.
don't.
You're like, who is this lady he's talking to?
Yeah, so that
And
was the
she's
only
like
thing.
taking care of him and like, oh, you're getting, reckless or oh, you're getting tired. Like she
Yeah, she
kept pointing
wanted
out
to.
how tired he was becoming. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's interesting.
She
I
kept
think,
wanting to
oh,
hypnotize him and let
yeah.
Iona get into his head. And I know it's important. I just don't know why, and it wasn't made clear by the end of the book. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
so. And then the other nation was coming in, and they were like, "We want you to leave." And the goddess was just like, "No, he's my guest." And they're like, "No, I'm
Yep.
going to fight you." I'm like, "What is this?"
I
And I
know.
know
I
it's
know.
going to come up again, but
Yeah.
I wasn't. I'm just like, I was kind of half paying attention, but I know that's to my detriment of not paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to that.
Well, and I think it's because we didn't understand that she was such a major character
Yeah,
because you and I had watched the show first, and she's not in the show at all.
no,
So it's like I didn't see her as someone to remember, and that was my bad.
yeah, I agree.
That was my bad. So maybe, hopefully, in the Sword of Destiny, which is the next 0.75 book, like we'll figure out more of her story and how she either stays with him or she leaves. Because obviously he gets away from her somehow. Not that she's a bad person, but she does seem like she's trying to manipulate him in some way. So
Interesting. Okay.
it's interesting. Yeah. No, that was my. I think I'd have to agree with you. That was my only problem with this book was I was like, who is this lady? Because anytime like a character is introduced to me and then their story just kind of falls off the face of the earth, I'm like, well, do I need to remember that person? Do I not need to remember that person? I don't know. You haven't given me else on here, other
Yeah.
than they're involved in some way. Um.
Depending on the author, like if it's like
Yeah.
this guy, I am inclined to believe that she is important, but some other
Mm-hmm.
YA lame ass fantasy author, I'm not gonna pay too much attention to it. So yeah, I she is important. I will probably have to go back and reread her chapters again, but that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So that was our discussion of The Last Wish, which is point 0.5 in the Witcher series.
What would
And
you rate it?
I think I gave it a 5. I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I think it was great.
Yeah, it was great.
Only because it actually like for the first time it kept my attention because I was like, ooh, I'm excited. Would I've rated it the same thing that I rated it if I wouldn't have watched the show? I think I would, just because it
I
was like, this is all new and exciting.
I'm kind of glad I watched the show first and read the book after, which I usually don't like to do, because
Mm-hmm.
if I had read the book and would have been excited for all the retelling, fantasy retelling, fairy tale
Yep.
retelling, and it didn't happen in the show, I would have been pissed.
Yeah, exactly. Because then
So
we're
with
like,
this
what?
way, it was a nice
Oh
surprise. I was like, oh, this is okay. It was a surprise when I
no.
read the book after seeing the show. So
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, and you were okay with like the little story that was like left out, even though like we always want to see it because we read the books, and then to see it as an adaptation into a movie, you always want to have everything in there, and that just
yeah,
doesn't happen due to time.
and
It's just
it wouldn't have fit in the show. It would have
no,
been
it would not have.
like no. So I understand why,
Yeah,
but yeah.
100%. So yeah, that was our review of The Last Wish.
All
I'm not
right.
even gonna say his last
Oh no,
Sapkowski.
I don't
Sapkowski.
even have it in front of me, man. I don't even know. All right, let's get into the fifth season, which is book one of the Broken Earth series by N.K. Jemisin. Um, I've been wanting to get more into adult fantasy, and I don't know if I kind of made Ashley too. I don't know if you're trying to get into more adult fantasy.
I'm trying so hard, girlfriend.
And I think I'm a similar reader to you. Like I don't care about plot driven
Yep.
stories. I don't like action on the page. I find it awful actually. I actually hate it. I prefer a character or a world driven book. And so
Mm-hmm.
I am finding, as this is like probably the fourth adult fantasy I've read, The Witcher being one of them, Game of Thrones being one of them, this one, and I read The Assassin's Apprentice, just the first book. Adult fantasy
Mm-hmm.
does tend to be very world and character driven, and so I'm really
Yes.
enjoying that a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's just a new dynamic for me because I definitely am like I like something that's more like ready set go, and adult fiction does not do ready set go. It is
Mm,
like let me just plot out this whole entire setting for you and all of these
very slow.
people, and then the story starts.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I feel.
Yeah, I think that's going to be. You're gonna have to get used to that because you're
I
so
know.
by
I
it.
don't like
You
it.
have to train your brain.
Yeah.
And I lied. I've read more adult fantasy and science fiction than this. I now that I think about it, and they do kind of either drop you into the story, or
Mm-hmm.
it is very slow, and I'm okay with that. I would I prefer it now. So
Mm-hmm.
all right. So
Mm-hmm.
before we get into the spoiler free edition of the fifth season, I read. I didn't. I listened to the audiobook, whereas Ashley read the book, and
Oh, it
so
was so rough. It was so
I
rough.
I know how to pronounce everything. So do you want me to go through and pronounce all the words for you that
You go right ahead because
okay?
I'm just like I'm gonna butcher this so bad.
No, I
I
know.
I can say their names, but all of these other terms,
Yeah,
oh my goodness. And she does not give you a way to pronunciate them in the book. There's just a glossary,
no, she does not.
and you have to just do your best
Yep.
with it. So,
Do
you
you
go
want to?
ahead.
I think it will be fun to see how you pronounced it. Let's do that,
Okay. Okay.
and then I'll
Which
tell you the
one?
correct version. Just pick one, and I'll tell you
Okay.
the correct one.
So the people who basically have the powers are called orogens.
Origins.
Origins.
Origin. Yeah,
Okay, well, it's spelled ORO.
I know, but it's just origin.
Origins. Okay. And then what was another one I had? Uh, Signet? No, Sinite?
Cyanide.
Cyanite. It
Yeah.
sounds like a stone. Oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Isun? Isun is the other lady, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's her name.
Oh, Isun.
Isen.
Oh,
I think
God.
they call her Isen.
Oh, Bart. Come on. I can't even get one name. One name.
You
I'm
don't
so
have time.
excited.
You have time.
I
What's
just
more? Keep going.
Hoya, right?
Hoa.
Dark crap. You're just enjoying this.
I am.
Okay, who's a couple other characters? Oh, Alabaster. Okay, I can
Yeah.
do that one.
Yeah.
Tonki,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And Inon. Inon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that one right too. Okay,
Yeah.
I got all the characters for you. Ta-da!
What about the town that we are in when in the
Oh,
first part?
the Empire, the Sanseas, Sanseas,
The Sansa. Yeah.
the Sanseas
No, but the
Empire.
town that starts with the Y. The country.
Oh no, no, Don, no.
Yemenix.
uh,
Minix.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then the little thing that's on the back of their neck, how they sense it, the S word.
Yep. I got nothing. You wait.
Sesapine.
Sen.
Sesapine.
Sepapine.
Yeah.
Well, excuse you. That's all I have to say.
And then Jija is her husband, and yeah, I think the rest of them were pretty. Easy to
Oh, well,
pronounce.
that's a genius, though. I must say how she pronounces the origin people because it's, I mean, that's just a ploy for the fact that there's different races of them.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. She's a smart cookie. This author is quite smart,
It's a
though, with
smart Yes,
how
she
she
is.
worded everything. I was like, oh, girl, all your underlying tones here, get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, okay.
All right. Well, let's start with what we did not like.
Oh, the pacing.
Didn't like the pacing.
For
Okay.
me, I really had to sit down and like block time out where I was like, okay, you're gonna read 45 pages, okay? And you're
Okay.
gonna sit here and do it. Like, it was such a struggle. I know how some books it's like, okay, give it 50 pages, give it 100 pages. It took me 224 pages to finally go, oh, okay, because it's told through like three different perspectives and their stories do not twine in together at all at first, and so you're like, I don't understand who
Yeah.
is talking. Why do I care? You know, and one person is told through the third person. So I think for me, I was like, who is this person? Why are you referring to yourself this way?
Hmm.
Um, so, but I think it was a choice as to like why she chose to write it that way, 110%.
Yeah.
Um, so, and it is not a happily ever after story. I will say that.
No.
It is a hard read, but a good read, but a hard read.
Yeah. I think I was still in Witcher brain, and I'm like, okay, are we in different timelines here?
Yeah. Yep,
Or
yep, yep.
I tend to do that. Like whatever book I read before the next, the book I'm currently reading, I kind of like think the same. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, but I was like, is this a different timeline? And then I was trying to figure out, okay, so they blew up Yemenix here. This is where Issa is because she felt it. So this isn't here happening now. And then they don't really reference it in Damaya's chapter. Like I was really trying to figure it all out, and I didn't. I was enjoying it. I didn't mind the pacing. Actually, I thought it was fine. My only dislike was I felt the world was I don't know if it's just because I'm so used to reading YA fantasy where like the whole world is info dumped in chapter one. But in this book, she doesn't really explain the world. Even at the end of the book, you're still kind of like, what? You don't get a sense of the
Yep.
world at all in the first book.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so used to
Well,
knowing exactly that it was a little tough for me to get over that.
well, and like even in reference to like what the fifth season is itself, like
Yes.
the book does not go into all of these different, I would say, catastrophic events that have happened to shape this world. You just kind of have to assume that things have happened, these natural disasters that have clearly wiped off half of the world or almost all of the world, and then it's rebuilt again. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, there was not a lot of innuendos towards that, and that for me was hard to follow because I was like, oh, it's a new world. I love worlds, I do. Um, but the fact that it was a lot of guessing and putting your own world together, that was hard for me to follow because I was like, okay, am I on the same timeline like you were saying? Or are we different? Is this going to come back together? Do these people even meet each other? Or, like
Yeah.
all of these questions that it took a while for those to get answered.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah,
It does explain why towards the very, 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 very end. We won't
the
say
very end.
the last freaking word. It's the last freaking word in the whole book. We won't say what
Mm-hmm.
that is. We'll save it to the spoiler edition. But and then it all kind of was like, oh, well, there
Uh
you
huh.
go.
Yep.
Yeah, and I
Yep.
kept trying to guess who the first person was that like in the prologue. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
who is the stone eater and the person that destroyed the world and why and all this stuff? And you don't really find out once again. You don't even
Yep.
find out until book two, I don't think.
No, because
I
I
read
even
book
asked you,
two.
I was like, did they still talk about this, or does this get figured out? Because you read Obsidian, what is it, Obsidian Gate?
Obs, obs, oh good lord.
Uh
Obelisk. Obelisk
huh. The
gate.
Obelisk Gate. Yeah, there was a lot of things left
Oh, a lot. unanswered
Unsolved,
for sure.
unanswered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's the only thing that
So,
I did not like, and we just left with more questions than answers. Like I
mhm.
felt like
I
you
got
get
like
to
two
a certain,
questions answered. That
yeah,
was it. And
you
I
get
was
to a
like,
certain point, and you're like, okay, you're trucking along, and then all of a sudden she just put something else there
dumps.
on you, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh man, and then she doesn't answer that, and then you're like,
Nope.
okay, well, I think I have an idea, and then here comes something else, and you're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
god, like it just kept coming and
Yes.
coming and coming. And once again, my YA fantasy brain could not handle that.
No, I couldn't either. And I think that that's why I literally was just like up late at night reading this book. And I'm like, oh, I hate everything. I hate all of what's happening. Nothing is getting answered. I'm not connecting to any of these characters. Like, just, I was really having a rough time. It was terrible.
You should have told me. I would
I
have.
was having a rough time. No, because I wanted, and I didn't do any like reading a synopsis of the story beforehand. So I think that might have also been my issue is because I went in cold turkey not knowing what to expect when I
Yeah,
read this book.
I didn't either. And at some point of the book, because I listened to it, most of it at work, and usually I can multitask, but I
Mm-hmm.
could not. I had to
No.
not do anything. So I was sitting at the reference desk just listening. I wasn't on my computer. I wasn't making any crafts. I would just sit and listen at the reference desk because I couldn't do anything at the same time because I would not understand it. And so at one point,
Mm-hmm.
I was so confused. I had to go and find a chapter by chapter synopsis, something that wouldn't spoil it for me. And that
Yeah.
was probably like midway through. And after I did that, I was like, okay, I'm getting it now. So I did have to cheat a little bit and find somebody to help me
Oh,
because I was totally lost. Totally lost.
I didn't do that. That's probably why I was still lost for 240 pages.
Oh no. I By that time I was like, look, I need somebody to explain chapter by chapter what is happening. And then
No, I couldn't do it because I was so scared I was going to ruin it.
yeah.
And I was trying so hard to put the book. But like I said, when the first thing happened where I was like, oh, then
Mm-hmm,
my excitement towards like, okay, what's gonna happen? My
mm-hmm.
interest was piqued, and so I was like, okay, I made it a little bit easier to read. But this is probably the hardest book I've ever read, just because I did not have any connection to it whatsoever.
Yeah. You know what? I am going to say the first book in Game of Thrones was hard for me. Even even though I
Mm-hmm.
watched the show, I watched the whole show up to that point, and I was still confused in the first book.
Yep.
And so I think Game of Thrones was harder than this for me, but
Okay.
this is definitely a challenge. I'm gonna read it, the third book. I don't know when because I have to prepare myself mentally to get ready because it is so much. If you thought the first book was tough, oh, you just
Mm-hmm.
wait. If you continue to read, it gets even more confusing. I
I
thought the
don't
first one
even.
was better than the second one.
I need someone I think to just read it to me. So I might need to find it in audio. Like I'm not even joking
Yeah,
because I
get it on
had
audio. And
such a hard time.
I read the second book. I didn't listen to audio because I felt like with audio, your mind can wander, and I needed to focus. So I'm just like you. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read
Uh-huh.
75 pages. I'm gonna pay
Yep.
attention. I'm gonna take notes. That's it. And that's what I did. I just had to read like 70 pages at a time because
You have to or else you lose it. Like you can't not keep reading. You can't just do like 10, 20 pages. Like you have to sit and read a big chunk or else you lose half of what you've been trying to collect
yeah.
of the information.
All right,
Oh,
what
I
do you
might I
like?
might need to finish this. Um let's see. I did have likes. I promise. I wrote them down. I did enjoy that this book is like it's such a smart book. And I know I keep saying it like that, but there were so many themes in this book that I caught on to. I mean, there was the theme of the systematic oppression, like that is throughout the whole entire book.
Yeah.
And this book did focus a lot on like what our world is like today. It makes you think about like how Like, have you ever had any like internalized racism and prejudices that you hold without realizing it? Like that book, it totally goes through all of that. So I did enjoy that the themes of this book were so much more deeper rooted than just this fantasy story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I did like the idea that sometimes your family isn't the family that is given to you by blood. It's the family that you find, and the importance of like finding your own people that will love you and accept you no matter what.
Yeah.
Because there was so much diversity within this book, and I liked the fact that, especially that last part, because I'm such a family person, that the idea of like your family is what you make it. You don't have to be bloodly related. It's however you guys have bound together in some sort of way through love and acceptance, that's how you choose to thrive together.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
like, the themes of this book were amazing. Once I finally figured them out, then I was okay. Like,
Yes.
what about you? What did you like about it?
I liked all the things that you said. I liked all the characters. I liked Isin and Demaya and
Mm-hmm.
Cyanide. They all had their own special. I think I like Cyanide the best though,
I do
because
too.
her character arc was just like totally transformed in her chapters.
Mm-hmm.
She started off as this like, I'm just in, I need all my rings. I don't care how I get it. She's like very just like, I'm all about myself. I don't care about anybody else. And then she has to be paired with this guy, and he's a hot mess. And
He
then
is
they
a
go,
hot mess.
and then like, by the end, oh my god, I cried. It was horrible, but like I really
Yes.
did like her story.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this woman, Cyanide, is just her life has just been hell. And then
Literally.
Ethan's life has been hell. And then Demaya, when we first start off, she's like in a cage or like in a
In the
barn.
barn, yeah. And they've hidden her in this cage in a barn, and she's in her own feces, hasn't eaten anything. Like, what is happening?
Yeah, and the way the author writes
Oh,
it, I was actually picturing someone that had hooves or something. I
yeah.
did not even
Mm-hmm.
picture her as a human girl because they made it seem like she had some sort of deformity or
Yep.
something. She was just a girl. And I was just
Yep.
like, oh my God. Like, just that
Mm-hmm.
setup right there was just like, okay, well, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Cyanide's character, her overall development in the story, I was like, that was probably the first attachment that I had was like, ooh, I wanted to keep reading her story
Yeah.
throughout the book because I was like, this is interesting. I like what's happening. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
because she just surprised me every single time. I was surprised every time as to what her decision was and where she was in that moment.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah.
Um, what else did I like? Uh, I did like the world. Even though I said I disliked how the world was executed, kind of, I also liked how the world was executed. I liked that it wasn't info dumped. I liked that she left intentional holes and didn't answer a lot of the questions of how the world got there. I constantly went back to the glossary to try and figure out, okay, what's this
Mm-hmm.
season? And I still don't understand all the seasons and how it came to be. And I'm still confused about the whole Sansa Empire because they kept saying, "Oh, they're Sansa" because they have a certain look about them. I'm still
Yep.
kind of confused about that whole thing. I'm still kind of confused what an obelisk is. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know everything and understand
Uh-huh.
everything. Even after I read book 2 called The Obelisk Gate, I'm still like, wait, what? What is that again? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I liked. I pretty much liked everything. I was confused with the whole book, but it was a good confusion. It was
Mm-hmm.
a it was an
It,
interested confusion.
it's a worth it confusion, and I will say that because that was my issue with the book because I was so confused, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I get
Yeah,
it. I don't get all of it, but then I was like, that's really well done storytelling
it was very well done storytelling.
because I was not expecting it. So my expectations were like they were blown away by what happened. So
So, what
yeah.
did you think about one of your very first adult fantasy
Um,
books?
I think that well, because this is my I guess my second, because I read Game of Thrones. I read the first one.
Yeah.
Um, so and
So
that to me, that took me a really long time to get through that because it was like the teeny tiny word print. It's like 985 flipping pages.
hmm
Um, but I feel like that was easier to follow than this book.
Okay.
And I don't and I think it was just because of the way that the narration was done in the book that was definitely a writer's choice. Like she chose to write that way and not every author writes that way. And so it made her very unique and her whole storytelling was completely different for me. So I have a lot of respect for her after I finished this book because I was like, that
Oh yeah.
takes, I mean, she was dedicated to that style and I didn't see her falter at all. Like it was an intentional holes that she had on purpose or else it would have given it away.
Yes, I agree. And I
So,
don't think what made, even though I said I thought Game of Thrones was harder to get through than this book, but I think Game of Thrones is a familiar world, whereas this is something I have never read at all.
nope, nope. And she doesn't
No,
even tell you. She does
yeah.
not preface what a season is like very well. She doesn't tell you all of the seasons. It's just in the back of the glossary. So you have to look it up. I
hmm
mean, for example, there's the choking season, which is the vault where there's volcanic eruptions that happen that caused a bunch of ash. And if it didn't kill you from the ash, from you breathing it, then it was lack of sunlight for 5 years.
hmm
Okay,
Yeah.
she does not talk about that in the book. It's not
No.
discussed. It's just you need to know this information and she gives it to you. There's a hint as to what different things that have happened to this world, but you're still like, what does this world look like? And how can people manipulate these elements like this?
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of their powers were. And then it's like the most important people to help them survive are the people that are dying off or that are being taken into this training school, and it's like then they deem if they're trainable or not,
Mm,
meaning that they're submissive to order.
yeah.
And then those that like lose control, like that one guardian that did, and
hmm
they just decide to just take their little stone out or whatever and like kill them. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that
What
gets
is happening?
they don't you don't get into that until book two. They don't even talk
But
about that until book two. Yeah.
this is what I'm saying. Like,
Yep.
this is not a book that I could snuggle up with a cup of coffee and read, in the morning or whatever. It is a book that is like you were going through trial by fire. You're going to go through lots of feelings and emotions, and you have to really carve out time. It's not something that I could just pick up and then just read 300 pages.
No, this should have been a buddy read. Like we should have read this
It
together,
should have.
like stopped after certain chapters and like discuss.
I
This
think
is
our
a
next
discussion book.
adult fantasy novel, we might need to do like a read along.
Yeah.
I think we need to because of how in depth a lot of these adult fantasy writers are. I'm just like, man, I wish I could have like just because I feel like we would have had a better handle on the surprises that happened and understanding our world and the characters that are inside of them.
Yeah. I
So
definitely agree. The second book has a lot more science, and I don't like science, so I'm just like, what? Yeah, both lost. Second book.
way to make me want to read it.
I know.
That
I know.
science.
Yep.
I would say though, I did not give this book a 5 because
Okay.
I had such a hard time reading it. I did give it like a 4. Yeah, so I would give it a solid 4 because it's not a book that I would like to pick up and read again.
Okay. I gave it a 5. I
That's
liked
okay.
because I liked everything about it. And like I said, I was confused throughout most of the book. It was a good confusion.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't bother me that I was confused. I think it kind of made me feel a little bit of a dumbass. Like, why am I not
Mm-hmm.
understanding what's happening? And maybe it's me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not understanding, and that's okay. Um,
Uh-huh.
so yeah, I'm I gave it a 5. I really, really, really liked it a
That's
lot.
good though. But that's good because you have yet to like have a book that surprised you in a very long time.
Oh, for sure.
So I think, like I said, for me, the reason why I gave it a 4 is because when I rate something a 5, I want to read that story again.
Okay,
Like
yeah,
I
that
am
makes sense.
emotionally, mentally, physically, like all of the things invested in the story, and I was not invested as much as I like to be when I rate a book a 5.
That makes sense.
So
Yeah.
that's just, I mean, and that's just my personal opinion. It's
Hmm.
there. It's not badly written. That is 100. It is a excellently written book.
For sure.
So
All right.
yeah.
So there are people listening. We are going to get into spoilers of the fifth season. So if you have not read the book, then you probably should stop listening now because we are about to spoil everything. So you have to the count of five to log
Uh
off. Thank you
huh.
for joining us. If you log off, if you're continuing to listen to us, welcome to the spoiler edition, and we are going to start it in five, four, three, two, one. Okay,
Dun
so
dun
at what
dun.
point did you realize? Did you know that they were all the same person before it was revealed?
No, I
No.
did
Oh.
not. I did not. And so I had caught on that like Demaya and Cyanide were the same person because all of a sudden it's like the guardian was like, okay, are you going to choose a name for yourself if you do this deed or whatever? And then all of a sudden her story dies off and I'm like, oh, it's her. She's Cyanide. Oh my God. Like, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, so I realized that Sinai and Demaya were the same person like a page before the reveal. And not a
Oh,
page, maybe a couple more. Actually, it was what was her name? Benoit or something at the time, Benoit. Ben,
Benoit.
Benny, what was her name?
I
Whatever, it doesn't
don't
matter.
I
You know,
don't know the names. I don't know the names. You do.
okay. So at one point, Benoit, we'll just call her that, is like, I need
Benoit.
to see the thing, I need to see the thing. And then at the whole time, Demaya was like pretty even attitude. And then she kind of
Mhm.
snapped on her, and I was like, wait a minute. Cyanide
Mhm.
has a quick temper. And so I
Yep.
was like, I'm gonna make a prediction. And then when she said I want to change my name, I was in my office like
Mhm.
screaming. I was like, yeah.
Oh yes.
But it did not. I did not think the author was going to make her Isin. I was like, "Are
I
you kidding
know.
me?" I
I
I missed
know.
it. That's why I was like trying to figure out the timelines because I'm like, okay,
Yep.
Demaya is at Minix, and so this
Mhm.
happened before the Cyanide character because she's in Yemenix. So
Yep.
she's way before her. And then Isin, I couldn't figure out the Isin and Yemenix and all that stuff. So
I know. And like, see, Essen was not my favorite character. I actually did not enjoy reading her point of view at all. I really liked Cyanide's personality. I liked that person that she became, but I understand like she has molded herself then into Essen. Like she's changed herself 3 different times. It's crazy.
yeah,
And what and her and Alabaster and their whole relationship, I'm just like, what?
yeah, that
What?
going back to like Isin and Cyanide being the same, I it makes so much more sense at the beginning of the book when Isin is like distraught over her son dying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you find out that her other son died as well. And I'm just like, oh, this makes not that a woman wouldn't, have that much,
Exactly. Well, yeah.
grief over her child dying, her baby dying, but like it just really intensified the understanding of her grief. And
Mm-hmm.
it was so sad. I did not guess that Isin was cyanide. I didn't guess at
I
all.
didn't.
I
I
did.
did not know. And well, at the first, because you learn about Isen's death of her 4-year-old son because he is an orphan, he does possess like the same magical powers that she does. And it's like you either have to hand them over to the society or your community kills you. Like it's
Yeah.
either one or the other. And her husband killed their son, and I'm just like, I have a son at home, so I'm like, I was like trying to envision like what it would be like to come into that son, like feeling all of her pain. And then you learn that she's not only lost one son but two sons, two of them, to the same foul play in this world, like them taking out her children because they are a blessing and a curse at the same exact time.
Yeah.
Because she's literally been like rejected from all of her communities that she's been a part of, like a black sheep. All of them are,
Yeah.
and
And
it's just like, oh,
her son with Alabaster would have been one of those things, chained up and raped
yep,
and abused because it was his son.
yep,
And she killed him because
yeah.
she wasn't gonna let that happen. And that was so sad. Oh my God. And then,
I
oh,
cried, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, oh, she got to kill her all." She like smothers her own son because
yeah,
she doesn't want him to end up like one of Alabaster's other sons that they found, and he
yeah,
doesn't even like reference it like this is my son. Like when they find the child that's been chained up and mutinized and abused and everything,
yeah.
and it's just like it's just known, and you're like, "Oh my
He
gosh,
kind
like
of
this."
does. He kind because he says he
He
has a lot
kind of yeah.
there,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind
And
of put two together. But yeah,
it's just it was so hard to read because an Alabaster is a scrawny tall man. Like he is not attractive, but somehow
and you know what? I
he's
kept
got
picturing someone in their 60s, but he was only in his 40s, early
yeah,
40s. And
yep,
it was really hard to like picture him.
yep,
And then the whole
yeah.
relationship. What did you think about their little relationship with Anon? Like
Oh
that was unexpected. Once again, YA fantasy brain that doesn't happen in
no,
YA. And I was all for it. I
no.
was like, okay,
Uh-huh.
okay.
I was like, So I am not a fan of that type of romantic triangle.
Yeah.
So, but it was so interesting because their dynamic worked for them. They
Hmm.
were all happy. Like there was this sense of like we finally have found like our community and our family and we're happy with what's going on. It's not our ideal situation, but we're free. Because at this point, Alabaster and Cyanate have been like deemed killed and they don't know where they are. You know, this 10 ringer, which is like the highest level you could possibly go, and her fourth ring power or whatever, they've been banished to this like stowaway island almost, this pirate island, where they find their like baby daddy. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I want to call him. And it's like, Alabaster sees her looking at this guy and he gets jealous. And he gets jealous because he wants the guy. And she's like, well, do you want me to call him over for you? Like,
It's different. I've
it
never
was
and
so different.
it was conflict free. It wasn't no
Yes.
like jealousy bullshit or
Mm-hmm.
once again, YA brain, YA fantasy
Yep.
brain. It was just like, okay, I'll do that. Mature,
Uh-huh.
handled very well,
Yep.
and it just seemed like it's natural. Okay,
Yep.
sure. She's just watching them
Well,
banging
yep.
in her, and it's just like, okay, cool, whatever. My turn. I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, literally. It's like, well, you done with him? All right, come on over here. Just roll over. And they both like I don't know, this whole, like I said, it's not a dynamic that I personally am like all for, but the way that it was in the book, I was like, okay, you happy? All right. And it's not like she did it tastefully well. I will say that. It's not like a super
Gratuitous.
gross romancy novel. Like it's
Yeah.
not. Like the love story is not the story. That's
No.
not that doesn't carry the story over here. So it's yeah, that all with her losing her both sons, I could my heart was so sad.
And I
And then
think
I thought Hoa, what how do you say it? Hoa? I thought that was her son coming back.
I didn't know what I thought
I
horror was.
because he is a stone no, he's a glass eater? No, a rock eater?
A rock
What is
eater.
he?
Yeah. A rock
Yeah.
eater.
And so because of how she takes out the guardians when Alabaster like goes to, like he gets sucked into stone and he also becomes stone, like parts of him. Did they talk about that at all in the
Yeah.
second book?
Yeah.
Okay, because so maybe we won't get in it so it doesn't spoil it for anyone else who wants to read the second book. But I thought that that's how her son came back. Like I thought she had like given him over to the
Mhm.
stone lord or the stone eater who had saved her and Alabaster before, because he's like, oh, she just keeps showing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I'm talking about. So I thought that that's who it was. Like I
Well,
thought
the
that
way
that was
she
her
writes the
son.
book, you think that everybody is somebody else because they're all the same freaking person. So you can't help
Mm-hmm.
but think, oh, who's this person? Because I did in the second book. There's another character, and I'm like, oh, who's really this
Yes.
person? And I was wrong. But I mean, I'm just like predestined to think that way now.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was
Yeah.
going to say is that I think it's a testament to Jemison's writing that she had three different, well, three people who were the same person, but they all
Mm-hmm.
had different voices that you were not
Yep.
able to decipher that they were actually the same person. That is hard to
No.
do. That's hard to
It.
do.
Well,
And
that's what I
so I
mean. Like
applaud
she
her for
wrote
that.
it. Yeah, she wrote it so well. Like that's why it's like you cannot be unhappy with how she wrote the story because it is. I mean, the continuity is spotless. It is
Yes.
spotless. Like you're just like, oh, and like I didn't get hints because Dawn always does where you'll say like, ooh, I'm gonna guess this, and if it's right, then I'm not gonna rate it something good. And as I was reading it, I was like, there's no way she caught this, no way, because
No.
I didn't even get like,
Nope. I caught it like I said when Demaya snapped on Benoit or Benoit,
yep,
whatever his name is. Then I
Benoit,
was like, wait a minute, okay, but
yep.
I still wasn't in the whole mindset of everybody's not who they seem because I did not guess that Isin and Cyanide were the same person. I
Well,
didn't
because
guess
she
that.
did such a good job of like where she drops you in at each of their stories, it is at different times in this woman's life
Yeah,
where she has I mean, Demaya is her as a young child. Then Cynate's when she finally, transferred into her training at the Fulcrum, right? Is that how you say
yeah.
it?
Hmm.
And so she gets to choose a name for herself then. And then it's like this whole story of how she's like turned into, this four ringed, what would you like, guardian? Because that's what she's trying to obtain, right? Is this guardian title?
No, Guardians are not Origins.
Oh, and you're right. Anyway, she's a four ring origin, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it transfers into Eason's life after all of this. And
Yes.
it's just like, what is happening? And it's like you can tell that Eason is this defeated woman. She's wanting to live like very quiet lifestyle, and you're like, but why? Like you have this power. Why would you want to do that? And then it's like she's transformed into this person who she was before because her son dies. And now she's like, well, you're not taking my girl either.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Um, okay, let's talk about the whole moon thing because that
The
is
moon.
on. And I think that's the reason why all of this activity is happening. Because
Yep.
there's no freaking moon. And I was just like, well, that's genius. Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That makes so
Yep.
much more sense. But you don't
Mm-hmm.
get that until the very end of the book.
No,
So
you don't. I mean, because like the moon helps keep everything in balance here on Earth, and when there's no balance, any sort of, everything just goes to puts. It's
yeah.
like it's why they keep saying like if something were to happen to our moon, things would shift here on the world. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
and
And
it's like Al. Sorry,
that
go ahead.
I do think that she's kind of has this is like her little way of saying this is global warming in this world because
Mm-hmm.
our weather has become crazy and
Mm-hmm.
this is what global warming looks like on this world and you guys better stop it. You still have your moon, but yeah,
Yeah,
I know I could
it's
be reading into that, but
no. I think it was just genius because like Alabaster is this. He has all these moments where he almost looks like or it's almost like he's painted as having a seizure, like a magical seizure.
I
And
could.
he's like doing all of these things that he's not supposed to be doing. Like, and it's like, what are you doing? Like that's not legal. How
Well,
how you're going about this.
that becomes clear in the second book.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, I don't know that
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But well done.
Well done.
Well done.
All
I
right.
was impressed.
So yeah, I was very impressed with the book. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
About that one? No. Mm-mm.
What are the chances of you reading the second book?
I think I think I want to, just so I get some questions answered, because I'm like, I keep bringing it up and you're like, oh, it gets answered. Okay, then. I guess.
Yeah.
Definitely not a late night coffee read.
No.
That, mm-mm.
No, it's heavy. Heavy
It
book.
is a heavy book. But yeah.
All right. Well, we had some people listening in on us. Thank you
Hello.
for joining the novel universe. I'm Dawn,
I'm Ashley.
and I'm a YA librarian. Ashley's an avid reader. We are in book clubs together outside of work and everything. And so
Mm-hmm.
we usually read YA, but we wanted to get into some adult fantasy this time around, which I think we both can say it was a journey, a good
It was
journey.
a journey. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I will continue the series. I will read the last book after I have gone through my other TBR list of books to get
Oh.
through.
Oh yeah, your 900 books that you've read already this month because you've had nothing to do.
But I don't want to take too long because if I will forget everything, and I don't want to forget stuff. It's so much that happens in
Yeah,
the second book. I don't want to forget. So I will get to it this month. But all
for
right.
sure.
Thank you for joining us. We will be back live in a second because we are going to do Foul is Fair by Hannah Capin?
Cap'n.
Capin?
Cap'n,
Capin.
girlfriend.
Okay.
Don't you jack her name up.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next podcast.
Bye.